Marcus Buckingham, welcome to What's Possible.
Thank you for having me.
I am thrilled to have you here. And Marcus and I were just discussing we could take this in many, many directions. So we're gonna pick some directions, but who knows? We may need a part two. You never know. So before we dive in to what we're actually talking about, I would like our listeners to know something about you. And not most people know you at this point. You are one of the biggest thought leaders in the space of leadership and well-being and strengths. What might our listeners not know about Marcus Buckingham?
Well, maybe. I mean, I'm a researcher by training and by disposition, which is the first 17 years with the Gallup organization, building things like Strength Finder. It was all about how do you measure things about human beings that are really important, but we can't count. So strength, so engagement, satisfaction, empathy, those kinds of things. But then after I left Gallup, Don Clifton, my mentor, passed away. And so I left and felt there was a new chapter in my life beginning. And I built a company from 2007 to 2017, 18 until I sold it. But it was a tech company focused on building tools to help team leaders get the best out of their people. So I've done that whole entrepreneur founder from scratch. Suddenly you wake up and there's 100 people that work in the company, and how do you navigate all that? And I don't know that folks know that, because I think in the world of research, you can spend a whole career really just doing the writing and the researching and the thinking and the presenting. I think for me, at some point, it felt like, no, go make it, go do it, go build a company, have customers, clients, colleagues, go see whether or not you can actually build something in the world where people go, I want that. That has value. So that was a big 10-year chunk of my life, which was fascinating. So I think adding entrepreneur to that resume has been a super wonderful, uplifting, challenging, stressful, educative part of my life.
And of course, you start your book out with that experience. You had me practically in tears. You know what? Let's share with our audience how you begin your book, because I think that's foundational to what you're talking about.
Well, we are living in an increasingly loveless world, whether it's schools or hospitals. Government, you could argue, is becoming increasingly loveless. Maybe always was. I don't know. Companies, certainly, as we look at all the weird and sort of inhuman ways in which we lay people off and the way in which we deal with folks.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in this kind of loveless world. And so I started the book off with a very personal experience of that. Everyone may have their own experiences of it, but I'd built this company. And when you build a company, there's a lot of love in it. There's a lot of love in starting off with an idea that you're passionate about and you're working crazy hours just to bring to life. And then you bring people on who are sort of weirdly in love with the same idea that you are. And then you have customers that you try to spread the love and share the love. And there's a lot of love in a company that's just beginning and you're really close to it. And then in about 2017, I decided that I would sell the company to a very large Fortune 500 company, which had 3,000 salespeople. So in my brain at the time, I was thinking, well, the timing was right, the price was right, the scaling was right. If you want to make a difference, 3,000 really smart friends is it's a good set of arrows to have in your quiver. And so I persuaded myself this was a very smart thing to do. And very quickly, the love died. And it wasn't the big company's fault. It's just when you're running a machine, the machine takes over and all your conversations become about KPIs, performance reviews, efficiency, compliance, run this through legal. And you end up just talking about very different things all the time. And I start the book with a line from arguably the best love poet of the last 100 years, Pablo Neruda, in which he says, love is born in savoring, it lives in intelligence, and then it dies from forgetting. Love doesn't die because you kill it. Love dies from neglect. And what I was seeing so up close and personal is if you start talking about a whole bunch of other things, then love withers because you just don't talk about it anymore. You lose your fluency. And the challenge for us as humans is that we flourish under one set of conditions only. We only flourish in loving conditions. We can survive in the other sets of conditions. But we flourish only in the context of love, which of course begs the question, what is love? But we flourish when love's around. And so if we live in a world, as I did when I sold my business, which becomes increasingly loveless, then we humans struggle to be everything that we could be. You know, your whole podcast is about what's possible. Well, that shrinks.
Mhm.
What's possible shrinks in a loveless world. And I started with the story there because it was my fault. Like, mea culpa, I did it. I killed a thing that was filled with love and I bled the love out of it. And I wouldn't do it again. I'm filled with regret for allowing that to happen. And to some extent, this book is a way to take a stand for me and for others to go, no, no, no. I mean, you can survive in a loveless world, but you don't have to. And we should take a stand for the other, for a world in which love is taken seriously.
Yeah. And like I said, it still makes me even emotional hearing you speak about it because I can feel your pain. And at the same time, you may, because of that one experience, which was so deep and so painful, creating this, maybe you'll change the course for thousands and hundreds of thousands of others. You never know what
Yeah.
brings us to where we are, and maybe your impact will be even bigger in terms of getting this message of love out there, which I do want you to go into why you pick love, and love is the answer, which you talk about obviously throughout the book. It made me, while you're talking, I talk about my dad a lot during these different podcasts, and he was an obstetrician gynecologist and then got into holistic medicine. The reason he comes up in my mind right now is he wrote a book called Love Made Visible, and it's all on pregnancy, and humans are love made visible when we think about it. And that's what you're talking about, is how do we care for these people who are truly love made visible. So
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful way to say it. I mean, you know, I start with also a line from Rumi as well, which is love is the
Mhm.
bridge between you and everything else.
Mhm.
And if you can understand that you look at the world through a lens of love and good things happen, you look at the world through the lens of other things, which you can, and less good things happen. I mean, it's as simple as that. Love is a multiplier. Love isn't a coating of being nice. Love isn't soft. Love's an ingredient, and you can design it into the experiences you have anywhere, or you could design it out, or you could just ignore it and neglectfully wake up one day and forget what it even means. We are living in an increasingly darkened world,
Mhm.
and the darkness comes from us being disfluent, dismissive of, flattening of our understanding of love. And the point of writing this book was to go, a huge part of people's lives is work. A huge part of people's lives is business. We live in the world of organizations. The data show this really clearly. We don't trust organizations anymore. We don't trust the police. We don't trust government. We don't trust hospitals. We don't trust big media. We don't trust big pharma. We don't trust big tech. Last year was the first year where only 15% of us strongly agree we trust all those institutions I just mentioned. So we're living in a world where we just don't think anybody has our back. And in that world, trust is a cousin of love. But we're living in the world where we are vigilant and have to be like, you've got two daughters, right?
Yep.
You have to you got to protect them like at all costs, and you feel it. I feel it. We all feel it. And maybe the world was always somewhat dangerous, but we had units in which love flourished, family units, community units, village units. We had companies even which took the humanity of humans seriously and cherished it. Not every one company, not all the time. I don't mean to be like Pollyanna, but we're in a world at the moment where if you just listen to CNN, listen to CNBC, read Fortune magazine, read the Wall Street Journal, and it comes across as a slightly enlightened pirate's manual. And it's all about extraction, value extraction from as many transactions as we can. And humans they're not even called humans at work. They're called full-time equivalents or
Yeah.
headcount, So we're living in that
Yeah.
sort of world. And in that world, I suppose we could go, that's okay. All right, we just have to deal with it. Or we could actually start putting a business case to it and going, wait, how would you build a really flourishing business? Wouldn't the two most important questions that your shareholders want to know is how many customers love us tomorrow versus today, and how many people love working here tomorrow versus today? How much love is in the system tomorrow versus today? Isn't that the most important driver of long-term sustainable business value? Oh, dear CEO, you don't know the answer to that? Well, that doesn't mean it's not important. It means you don't know the answer to that. So what, in a sense, to your point about destiny and what could come out of a bad thing if I can figure out a way to help people go, oh no, love's the most powerful quantitatively. It's the most powerful driver of productive human behavior in business. Dear CFO, dear General Counsel, if you don't know that, it doesn't mean it's not so. It means you don't know it. And so what we've got to do is help for moral reasons and business reasons. We got to rehabilitate you. You're failing your shareholders. When you don't understand how to take love seriously, you're failing in your fiduciary responsibility. We got to pitch love like that, because otherwise I think people think it's a soft coating and curly font and kissing in
Yeah.
front of the Eiffel Tower. And it's like,
Yeah.
no. I mean, it is that.
That
But
sounds
it's
romantic, but
yeah, it's so much more than that. And
yeah.
last thought on this, I suppose, would be it's weird to go look at all the business schools who are producing our future leaders, the denizens of the future, executive levels of our companies, and not a single one has a single class on the most powerful driver of productive business behavior, which is love. Not a
Mm.
INSEAD, Stanford, Wharton, Harvard, London Business School, you name it. How
Mm.
bizarre is that?
What's so interesting is, so I went to the MAP positive psychology program at Penn. Our program is housed in Wharton's Business School. Talk about
Mm.
two polar opposite kind of programs. And I'll never forget, though, going back to your point about ROI. We love to think do love for the sake of humans, right? But that's not going to pay the bills. So we need something where organizations and shareholders, CEOs, whoever, they see the profit and the ROI. And I'll never forget sitting in class. Marty Seligman was one of my professors. And I remember sitting in
Right.
class one day. He was so tickled, like a kid in a candy store, because the Deneuve report came out on linking profit or well-being and profitability and shareholder value. And he said, this is what we knew to be true, and we have the research. And there's plenty of research that supports everything. Well, and you're a researcher, everything that you're
Mm.
talking about. And so it isn't fluff, even though from my vantage point, I'd love to say we just care about people because that's the right thing to do. But if all you care about is profitability, it's still the right thing to do.
No, that's beautifully said. I mean, there's a way in which this marries together, because if you take the data, I mean, let's face it, on some level, we do understand that experiences drive behavior, drive outcomes. So if in business you want sustainably productive outcomes like profitability or productivity, but also retention, loyalty, advocacy, if it's patients, we want patient outcomes, we want health. If you think about those outcomes, you can drive them directively. Like you could set goals for people and then give corrective feedback or incentivize your colleagues to hit the goals. Like that works. We could do the same for customers, where you'd have specials and loyalty programs and price cuts, and we can be directive to try to drive those outcomes. But we know those only work temporarily. We know it. We know that if you want to sustainably change behavior, then you've got to go upstream. You've got to get to the experiences, because if you want sustainable behavior change of colleagues or of customers, you've got to create experiences that drive the behaviors that drive the outcomes. So what that means for all of us as leaders is that we're experience makers. That's what you are. The email that you just sent, that's not an email. You're making an experience for the person on the receiving end of it. That meeting you just called, it's not a meeting. You're not running a process meeting. You're creating a bunch of experiences for people in the meeting. If you don't know that, it doesn't mean you're not an experience maker. It means you're not a skilled one. And so it's sort of writing the book to go, hey, listen, you are an experience maker. And the real challenge is, how can you become the most intelligent experience maker possible? Well, that means we got to look at extreme positive outcomes and reverse engineer them in a sense and go, well, to get extreme positive outcomes, productivity, profitability, loyalty, advocacy, etc., what sort of extreme positive experiences do we need to create that drive the behaviors, that drive the outcomes? If every leader is really just an experience maker, then what do we need to design into the experiences? And that's where, when you really push on that, and you do focus groups and you do interviews and you do ask open-ended questions and then keep quiet and let people just talk about that experience at that restaurant, at that coffee shop, in that team, working for that leader, in that hospital, wherever it is, talk about an extreme positive experience. The word we humans instinctively use is love. We say, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love this. I love that. We say it about lots of different things. We say, I love that movie and I love my mom. And so it sounds like, wait, what? That's just careless. But when we're trying to describe something extremely positive, the word we land on is love. And what I did, shame on me as a researcher, I kept changing the word because I was like, well, that's silly. They don't mean love. They mean respect or passion or joy or, satisfaction on it turned up to 11. But actually, the word people actually use, top of mind, is love. And so this book, in a sense, was almost a reprimand to myself to go, listen,
And to
Marcus.
me, I'll be honest, because I was
Well,
thinking, love, you're going to lose people. Marcus, you're going to lose people. So I came full circle. Keep going. Sorry, but it was
no.
in your court.
Well, you're supposed to just listen to the word and go with it and then be
Mm-hmm.
curious about it. Why do they say love? What could they possibly mean when they say, I love my socks? I love my outfit. I love my mentor. Those things seem sort of different. Like, is love just a careless exaggeration of the word like? Is that what it is? Are we just being linguistically careless? Why do we consistently use this word love? And by the way, the data underneath it, not to be too kind of data wonky about it, but the relationship between experiences and outcomes. Let's say that you're measuring outcomes on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is a strongly positive experience, 1 is a strongly negative. We tend to think that the relationship between experiences and outcomes is linear. What that means is we think that if we move a 2 experience, let's say customers who are kind of grumpy, to a 3 experience, let's say they're neutral, then you get the same amount of outcomes increase from those customers as if you move a 3 to a 4 or a 4 to a 5. And if you think about it linearly, and you've just got a lot more customers or employees in the 2 or the 3 or the 4 range, it makes a ton of sense to ignore the 5s because they're already pretty bloody happy. And
Right.
instead, let's focus on moving the 2s to the 3s and the 3s to the 4s. That's the way that most companies work. It's the way that most leaders work. We ignore the 5s and we go, let's try to move below average to average, average to above average. But it's all based on a complete miscalculation. The relationship between experiences and outcomes isn't linear. It's what's called curvilinear, which basically means it's a J curve. Moving a 2 experience to a 3 doesn't change people's behavior at all. Moving a 3 to a 4 moves it very slightly. It's only when you do something with a colleague or a customer which moves them from a 4 experience to a 5, you do something that's so authentic or remarkable or touches them in such a way that at some point they go, that's a 5, I love that you get a massive drive or change in their behavior. 4s are 3s. And this is one of those things which I start the book with because it's like, what's the business case for love? Well, one of the takeaways is never put 4s and 5s again. Like, in business, we measure everything. We're forever putting 4s with 5s and calling it a top 2 box or percent favorable. The most prevalent sentiment score in the world of business right now is net promoter score, which takes 9s and 10s and subtracts that from the 6, 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s to get a net promoter score, which is all, frankly, rubbish. Like, net promoter score is a terrible piece of data because when it's based on the idea of linearity, but it's not linear. It's curvilinear. 9s are 0s. There's 10, everything else is 0. Or if it's a 5-point scale, it's a 5, everything else is just not a 5. So what that means for the CFOs out there, the CEOs, the hard-nosed business professionals is, hey, listen, your job is just to change behavior. Your job is to change behavior for customers or employees. And moving a 2 to a 3 and a 3 to a 4 doesn't. It's only when you do something that's so remarkable or so positive, extreme positive, that you get somebody, a customer or an employee going 5, that you change their behavior. Now, when you then unpack the 5, that's when you bump into love. So we have to take love seriously because it's the only thing that drives productive human behavior. it's like we've misunderstood the relationship between experiences and outcomes. You have to write a book about love because fives drive outcomes and fives equals love. That's what we say when we try to describe why did we put 5 or 10, whatever the extreme of the scale is. And so it's like, ooh, love's the most powerful force in business by a mile. And we have whole scads of executives are out there, leaders in business, who don't even look at it because they think that they haven't made a moral miscalculation, although they might have done. They've made an analytical miscalculation. So I kind of liked starting the book with like, let me play you at your own game here. You don't understand data. You don't understand numbers. Or at least you don't understand how the numbers predict the behaviors that you want from your customers or your employees. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Let's all just stop.
Let me help you. Let's start at that.
Yeah. Let's look at the data. And I think that almost rehabilitates love, I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, what ends up happening with leaders, the more we are in an uncertain environment, a fast moving environment, volatile, you name it, the fear of AI, like all these things, it moves people away from love because the fear brain gets activated and it moves us then towards what we think is going to save us. And it's inaccurate, false thinking.
Yes. Well, there's nothing wrong with fear, right? We know fear does something very useful to us. It gets us into flight or fight, and it narrows our range of options, which sometimes leads to survival.
Can be good. Yes, true.
But as Ed Diener and Barbara Fredrickson, you know these people, Marty too, Seligman, the role of positive emotions is to broaden and build. That it changes the neurochemistry and it opens your brain up to more inputs. And I'm preaching to the choir. You know this.
No, but it's great for our listeners.
So why do we have emotions like happy? Why do we have emotions like love? Why do we have these what they must serve us in some way? And what we seem to know now is that they change your serotonin levels, your oxytocin levels, your norepinephrine levels, your anandamide levels. They change your brain so that it opens itself up to more information, more inputs. You see, Barbara Fredrickson said, it's broadening and building. That's what they seem to be for. And the extreme version of that is love. So if you think about why could we use the word love in reference to such different things? Why could we say, I love my socks and I love my mom? Surely it can't mean the same thing. But in a sense, that's kind of the challenge I took on with this book, going, well, when we're describing an extreme positive experience such that we'll buy the socks again, or we'll wear the socks again, or we'll go hang out with our mom and fly 10,000 miles to see her when she's like, moms, they do that to us, right? So what do we mean? Like, it was just a beautiful question, I thought, to kind of go, let's just marinate. Why are they saying that word? What do they mean? And I feel like, obviously, there's 8 billion definitions of the word love. Totally get it. And sorry, Gary Chapman, there aren't 5 love languages. There's 8 billion love languages. But if it drives behavior around the world, we must mean something in common. If it consistently drives behavior, when you say somebody loves something, we know what they're going to do next. Then we must have some. Right. So that's where, for me, if you unpack it, I think the most useful definition of love, as in when do we use it to describe an experience? No matter how small or big the experience is, when do we pick that word? We pick it when the experience allows us to feel more fully ourselves over time, which might be Marty Seligman's word for flourishing, but we go through life armored against the world, plates of armor around us to protect ourselves. But inside, we know we have something unique and beautiful that we want to express, and we want to have a life in small ways and large where we get to express ourselves. We don't want to get to 95, sit on the porch, and have felt like we've lived a second-rate version of someone else's life, or that we've never really had a chance. Like every human listening now knows that feeling of, there's a me in there, and I want bits of the me-ness to come out. But we're armor-plated. So anytime we bump into an experience that allows us in some small way to take off that armor plating just a wee bit, the word we reach for is love. Love is that little feeling of feeling more fully yourself over time. It could be massive, like you have a mentor who reaches past your performance review and goes, you know what, Marcus, you're in the wrong role. I put you in it. Sorry, dude, but I'm going to move you over here because I think this role. And you might not have the pride yet, Marcus, to be able to say it to yourself, but I'm going to say it to you first. It's tough love. This is tough love, man. But I'm going to put you in a spot where you can flourish. Like we use it for that, where you go, I love that leader. And we use it for, I love every Bill Withers song. I love Bill Withers. Why? I don't know. Just somehow he's listening to him. I open up just a little bit. And, some of your listeners won't know who he is, but like that Ain't No Sunshine when you're, those songs.
Yeah, not
I love
everybody's
Bill
our age, but
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, guys, he's amazing. But it's like, oh, wow. Every single human being knows what that feeling is of feeling more fully yourself over time. And every single human being knows in small ways and large, having experiences which allow you to do that, which isn't soft at all, because hence tough love, but it is really specific. And so if we wanted to design in to experiences that feeling, the point really of the main chunk of the book is to reverse engineer that feeling and go, oh my gosh, that feeling of flourishing, you unpack that. It's made up of a sequence of 5 feelings. It's not random. There's a sequence of 5 feelings: control, harmony, significance, warmth of others, growth. That's like a blueprint for designing love in to your own life, your own work, or to the lives of the people you lead or serve. So that was sort of my effort with the book, was to go, oh my word, there's a blueprint. Almost Maslowian in terms of Maslow's hierarchy, but it's not hierarchical, it's sequential. But gosh, if you could design in those 5 feelings, each one is like one more plate of armor coming off. And when leaders do that for us, when they do it in an email or a meeting or a conversation or a performance review or whatever it is, it's a really beautiful feeling as that leader sort of helps us take off one plate of armor. Or maybe it's a company and we're a customer and they've designed the experience so lovingly, I would say, that we just find ourselves, we've just lent in so far, we almost tie our personal identity to that company. I mean, some companies do that really intentionally, beautifully. Many don't. But that's what the point of the book was really, was to go, how'd you design it in? What is it? And how'd you design it in?
Well, and I think, obviously there's intentionality, but I think it's simpler than we think. It's showing up as a good human. It's seeing people, it's valuing people, it's allowing them to feel valued for the uniqueness that they bring. And I love your weaving of the Josh effect, I think you called it. Will you share for our listeners who have not yet read the book? I think everything you're talking about, Josh embodied and did it so it seemed, so organically.
Yeah, well, I'll give the game away. His name's Josh D'Amaro, and he's just been named the chairman or the CEO of Disney, taking over from Bob Iger.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, can you please tell me what company? Because you make it sound like you're going to tell us, and you don't tell us, unless I missed it in the book. But I don't think I saw it in the book. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, sorry.
You did?
Yeah,
I missed it.
Yeah, no, it's like the end of chapter 6 is I just couldn't resist when I was following him around, he wasn't in that job. When I heard about Josh, I'd heard about him from a bunch of people. I've done some work for Disney over the years. I think the company, it waxes and wanes in terms of its commitment to its own mission and vision. I think over the last few years, it's really stepped into itself, and kind of, I think Bob Iger's been a wonderful executive, actually, and others may disagree, but I think he's done some things that really were incredibly valuable for Disney, which is wonderful. But I'd heard about this person called Josh, and so whenever I hear about somebody doing something extraordinary, I do what's called primary qualitative research, which in this case was just like, can I follow you around for a few days? And so he very nicely said yes. He was running Disney parks and resorts and cruise lines and consumer products and Imagineering, which is a big chunk of Disney.
Yeah.
Which at that point in the company, you're often like so out of touch with people. You almost have handlers sort of as you glide from one meeting room to another. But I was like, let me go follow this guy around. And there were sort of three, I'll just share three things that were three and a bit that struck me as, oh, wow, this person has taken love really seriously. And in his own way, he's not perfect, of course, but he's operationalized it in a really intelligent way. He has a lot of what I call experience intelligence. The first was 6 o'clock in the morning, was about 10,000 cast members on Disneyland's Main Street, because it's Disneyland's 70th birthday. We're there, but so's the New York Stock Exchange with their bell there. Well, him and Iger are going to ring the bell at 7. There's about 10,000 guests actually out the front of the gates waiting to come in to celebrate with the cast members. And it's now the time's ticking closer and closer to when they have to ring the bell. ABC cameras are there. Like, everyone's a bit stressed. And no one can find Josh. You can't find him. And eventually they see him. He's way over, far from the stage. He's by the front gates, and he's walking from one gate to another, just chatting, hugging, smiling with the little cluster of cast members who are manning each gate. And eventually the handlers find him. They drag him back, and he stands up on stage, and he rings the bell with Iger, and away they go. But I'm asking him afterwards, I'm like, what were you trying to do? Were you trying to just put a little wrinkle in the plans, or what was? He goes, no. I just have a custom, which is now in some of my career, I'm often in a room where there's a stage and people want me to speak. And so I've just decided that if you're going to do that, my first custom is going to be to go furthest from the stage and closest to the guests. Go talk to the cast members that are furthest from the stage and closest to the guests, and just have make an experience for them, an experience, to your point, of them being seen. I see you. What you're doing is super valuable. I'm not some person way up there on a stage 45 meters away. I'm like right next to you, hugging you and saying thank you. And you're like, oh, well, that's I don't know. He's just going through the motions. But he's not. Like, he's clearly, that's who he is. I was then supposed to, by the way, I know that because fast forward like 2 hours, he's now in a part of the park there's no cameras there at all. No one's there. It's not even open. And he spends 40 minutes on his haunches just chatting with the 12-year-old girl who was a Make-A-Wish recipient. And no one's there. No one's seeing it.
Wow.
Like, I'm just watching.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, that's real. Then we're supposed to walk up and down. He doesn't know I'm there, but I'm hiding in the bushes with the camera. Like, literally I am. But I was like so touched. He was like, you don't need to be doing this. And I don't want to fanboy too much on Josh, but it's like I then went walking up and down Main Street with him, which I've done with many, many other Disney executives. And I'm supposed to be asking him, like, what are you paying attention to? And what do you look at? And how do you make sense of what you see and so forth? And we didn't get 20 yards because he was mobbed by the guests, smiling, happy, pictures, this and that, and calling him by name. And I found myself going initially, Josh, how the heck do they know who you are, dude? Like, how? And he eventually goes, well, I think it might be because of my Instagram account. I had made a public Instagram account for cast members. And I'd said to them, look, if you've got any issue, a broken door handle in a closet, or a light in a bathroom, or whatever it is, cut through the bureaucracy, send me a DM on my Instagram. And all of his PR and communications people were like, that is a phenomenally bad idea.
Yeah.
Do not do that, because the guests will find it, and then they'll see behind the veil. They'll see. Yeah. And Josh is like, I don't care. I want to be there for my cast members first. And if the guests figure it out, then they figure out that I'm there for the cast members. I love that, says Josh. And what you could see is that they had found him. And for some reason, the guests had kind of fallen in love with this guy. And the thing that was so kind of weirdly moving, I think, in a way, is how proud the cast members were that their leader was so beloved by the guests. There was a loop of love and it was not just accidental that day, and it certainly wasn't put on for me as a show. He had laid the foundations of it, probably in many ways beyond an Instagram thing. But the Instagram was like a very clear, I'm flipping here for my cast members, and if my guests see that, good. I don't care.
Yeah.
And it manifested in I almost think the word is relief, that you're a guest who's fallen in love with Disney, and you hope against hope that the people that are running the show are in love with that experience as much as you are. And then with Josh, they're like, oh, good. Thank goodness it's real, There are
Yeah.
lots of other examples then that are more mechanical, like how do you redesign a ride with love in it? Josh is incredibly, talk about using a blueprint for how do you design love into the Millennium Falcon ride. There's so many other examples in that I saw that day about that are more, I'll use the word mechanical, I suppose, more operational. But initially it was just like, to your point, he was a good human who realized that humans need to be seen, and he would
Mhm.
figure out the right ways in his way to show them that they were seen through these
Yeah.
various customs or interventions that he had. And it was like, okay, this is doable because he's now just got picked for the one of the biggest jobs in the corporate world, which means there's a whole bunch of shareholders of Disney who must have gone, yeah, pick him. And so for me, it was like, oh, that's uplifting, actually, in a
Yeah.
world where there's a lot of corporate communications and corporate leaders that are, thumping their chest and having
Mhm.
that past for leadership.
Yeah.
And we're beginning to see more and more and more of that. To have someone
Mhm.
who's, Josh isn't soft at all, but it was like, oh, no, no, no. I'm going to lead through seeing the people that I serve or seeing the people that I work for. He's
Yeah.
actually just, he had to lay off 1,000 people last week, which is really, really, really hard. But juxtaposing how he did that in the words used in the email versus how the folks at Oracle laid off their 30,000 people the week before, like you can see the juxtaposition of designed love out and designed love in, even in something as difficult as laying off people who are part of your workforce.
Well, and I watched your Instagram post on Oracle, which for our listeners, go see Marcus's Instagram. First off, you have great videos on there that are short and that they leave you thinking. Each one of them, they're all of a minute long, and you're like, boom. And so I encourage people to go listen. But the one on Oracle, I found really powerful how you handled that one. And then what Marcus did was created a redo of how the letter could have gone out. It's not saying we get organizations sometimes have to lay off. That makes sense. But how you do something matters. And when you treat people like humans, not just expendable things, we are not AI, we are
Mm.
human beings. And I love how you kind of rethought how could they have done this in a way that is loving. It's something painful, but how can you do it in a loving way? And I love hearing that with Disney.
Well, and we could argue whether or not Oracle needed to lay off 30,000 people. Like you
Well,
could argue about that. Let's say
sure.
that you come to the conclusion that you have to. I'm sorry, there's still people. And imagine what the remaining Oraclers must now feel.
Oh.
So please
Mhm.
don't tell me that designing love out of an email is intelligent. It
Mhm.
isn't. It destroys shareholder value. The way that that email was written destroys shareholder value. Why? Because there's tens of thousands of other Oracle people who still work for the company who now know how they are actually perceived
Mhm.
by the company. That doesn't mean the
Mhm.
company can't function. It doesn't mean the company can't make a lot of money. You can extract value in all sorts of ways from human beings. And not all of them are sort of immoral. Some of them might be amoral, but please don't say it's intelligent. You've destroyed the discretionary effort, the passion, the love, the joy of thousands of other Oracle people. That's that's dumb. From a business
Yeah.
standpoint, dumb. You did a
Yeah.
dumb thing. Now, as you were saying, you also did sort of an inhuman thing, an unloving thing. But let's bring love into the equation. If you want people to continue to work really, really, really hard for you, you better show them that you actually genuinely, like Josh was doing. I love the people that I lead. That doesn't mean that there aren't sometimes where I've got to go, oh my gosh, we do actually need to lay these people off because we're living in a capitalistic world. And sometimes that happens. I've run a business. I've had to lay people off. It's horrifying and it's devastating, but you have to have positive cash flow. And that's not always easy to do. Sometimes you overhire and you know.
Yeah.
So there's a reality to that. But the idea of like, well, I'm a tough business person. That's why I did that. No, you're an unintelligent business person. That's why you did that. Let's
Yeah.
rehabilitate this. Let's find a different way of talking about this so that we can have different actions.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, if you're a tough business person, the other people who are staying are watching you, and so are your customers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we as customers have the buying power to choose who we do our business with too. So, oh
Absolutely.
my gosh, I want to keep going, and I know that we can't because your time is sensitive. Let me ask you the one question though that I do often ask, and then I'll do my quick wrap up questions. Is there
Yeah.
something that I didn't ask or something that you feel like I just need these listeners to know this?
We all have a voice. We all have a voice and a responsibility to make the world more loving. One of the things that I'm going to do starting in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to give away a really simple way to capture what experiences make you feel. I'm just going to, so it's a simple slider. Love that, didn't love that. Love that, didn't love that. Love that, didn't love that. You know, as Pablo Neruda said, love lives in savoring. You can't make the world more loving unless you can start to figure out where it's present, where it's absent, at the coffee shop, in the meeting, in your own interactions and situations in your life. Start paying attention to what you love and what you don't. Because what I think we need is a very, very simple way to track how much love is in the system so that we can start hold companies accountable for their love that. I call it their love that score. I love that. I love that. I love that. I didn't love that. I love that. It's binary. By the way, the world is binary. It's fives or zero. So let's just put that out there and give everyone away. Not a Yelp review, not an Amazon review. I'm less interested. It's like, let's just give everyone a way to go, loved it, didn't, loved it, didn't, loved it, didn't. And then let's attach that to companies so that we can start. I mean, yes, in your own life, that's useful. It's very useful to have you start inventorying and capturing the moments in your working week that you love and what you didn't. Because let's face it, love is the raw material for strengths. Love is the place that enables you to be at your very best. Love decodes where you're special, frankly. So to give everyone a love that slider and just go, loved it, didn't, that's no question it's going to help us as individuals design more love into our own lives. But it's going to be able to have us, if we get enough voices, each person is a source of light. And if we add our light to the sum of light, then we can start saying, and I'll commit to doing this, by the way. I'm going to build a database. And we'll start small, of course, it'll be few people, but we'll build a database so that we can say, American Airlines, how much love is in your system? Oh, Verizon, how much love is in your system? Oh, Disney, how much love is in yours? Where's that data coming from? Not from some daft mystery shopper program, but from hundreds of thousands of people with a slider. Loved it, didn't, loved it, didn't. Well, gosh, if we do that, our voice is heard as it's aggregated.
Yeah.
We can start saying, Wall Street will start paying attention. What were your profits this month, American Airlines? Not to pick on American Airlines, but
Right.
what are your profits? Oh, they're this. Oh, but your love that score went way down. You're destroying the love in the system. Okay, we're going to put a tax on your stock price because you're bleeding love out of your company. How do we know? Because we got hundreds of thousands of people that just recording the loved it or didn't love it in the experiences they have on your airline. Like that data doesn't exist. We as humans don't feel we have a voice, mostly because it's too complicated, I think. So my mission moving forward for the next 10 years is let's give everyone a super free way to go, loved it, didn't. And then we'll aggregate the data so that we can start saying, are we getting more love? Are we getting less? As Drucker said, Peter Drucker, my favorite management theorist, what gets measured gets managed. We have no data on love, so we forget it. So I don't know if this will work, but you didn't ask me about it because I'm still like, gosh, I wonder if it will work. Right? But how cool would that be if
Well,
we all
and of
were
course,
like,
I just said I love it because
yeah,
I go two ways. I love it or I'm not wowed. That's my spectrum is not wowed, love it.
and mostly we don't have a chance to process those feelings, so they sit within us. And not love it doesn't mean hated it. It means
No,
meh. Yeah,
not
good.
wowed.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
not wowed. Exactly. So if you have a loved it, not wowed, but imagine if you had 2 million data points
Yeah.
on all sorts of companies, and we started saying to company leaders, "Oh no, your customers do have a voice. Actually, they're not criticizing you. They're just going loved it or didn't." And what we know from the data is didn't simply equals non-predictive. That's all it means. It means
Yeah.
I wasn't wowed. So you don't know
Yeah.
what I'm going to do next. You don't know if I'm going to come back. Don't know if I'm going to pay more. You don't know if I'm going to tell other people to go see your movie. You don't know if you're going to tell other people to go to your restaurant. It's just non-predictive.
Yeah.
If we could sort of get that as part of the world's conversation, we would all have a voice in making the world a little less transactional and a little more loving. I
Mm.
gotta believe that we would all love that.
I I don't even know where to go from there. I almost feel like that is the crux of this. Where will we find that we can start checking off on the scale? Where are you going to house it?
Well, I'm housing it at. I mean, you can go to my Instagram and I'll talk about it and stuff, and I'm sure I'll sort of bring some light on it. But uh, lovethat.com,
Lovethat.com.
lovethat.com, just to show you how little value we place on love. That was available. Like,
That's
can you imagine?
crazy.
Isn't
That is
that
crazy.
crazy? If you go there, I haven't built I built a web app. I haven't built the actual native app, say for iOS and Android yet. So that'll be over the summer or whatever. But if you go to lovethat.com, you'll find you'll find this free forever version of a slider that just helps you guys. You want to keep track of where the love is and where it isn't, for yourself or for the world. You do it for either reason, altruism or accountability or just your own personal work and life. And that's at lovethat.com. And I'm so excited about that because everyone keeps saying, well, what can I do about it? And to
Yeah.
begin with, when I could write a book and you could say, read the book and you could sort of design it in, but let's give you a way to have your voice amplified. Like, that's a good start. Let's capture it, amplify it, get people to pay attention to it, either for moral reasons or for pragmatic reasons.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, this whole conversation's making me feel so much better because sometimes I'll listen back to some podcast episodes and I'm like, how many times did you say, oh my gosh, I love that? I say that all the time. So now I'm actually feeling a little bit better. And it's not that it's diluted. I truly love it. So I appreciate this
Well,
conversation personally too.
just one quick thing on that is, like, attention is a creative act. If we want more love in our lives, I'm not saying we should be, overruled by the tyranny of the positive. If there are some negative things happening, we need to pay attention to them, address them,
Mhm.
absolutely. But
Yep.
even just to give people a way to pay attention to those moments and experiences in your working day or week that you loved, change will follow the focus of your attention. I think David
Mhm.
Cooperrider said that change will follow the focus of your attention. So if we give people a way just to go, just notice what's loving and what's not. And then maybe we can give you ways to get more lovingness, but it begins with attention. Be attentive. And and in this case, let's be attentive to those things where you go, I love that. Because if we don't, as Pablo Neruda said, right, we've killed love with neglect, our neglect. And what a I think that's a tragedy, actually.
Yeah. What is one thing a leader can do right away when they end this podcast to infuse more love in their life, their work, their organization? One thing.
I think the simplest thing is to check in with each of one of your people every week for 15 minutes individually, one by one. That's the simplest thing. Ask them 2 questions. How'd you feel about last week? What are you working on this week? And how can I help? How do you feel about last week? How are you working on this? What are you working on this week? How can I help? Do that 52 times a year. It's the simplest way to show people that I'm focused on you. I'm trying to stay in harmony with you as you go through your year. I'm trying to think about how I can make tomorrow a little bit more productive than yesterday. That's the simplest thing. The frequent light touch attention to a human. If you can't
Yeah.
do that because you've got too many people, then you've got too many people. So it's the simple sort of integrating ritual for the best leaders.
Yeah. And the final question, what is possible when we let love in?
Everything that we've talked about, you at your best is possible when we let love in. We know that opens you up to more collaboration, more creativity, more resilience. So we know that. But the the bigger thing for you as an individual, there's a health for you and a health for others that's possible when we let love in. I would even say there's health for you and there's health for others when we design love in. The opposite of design is drift. We're drifting. And if you can design love into your own life and take it seriously in your own life, you will have more. Frankly, you'll have more physical and psychological well-being. Love is an enabler of that, but you'll also have that source of love that you can draw others into and design for others. we are all experience makers of others.
Yeah.
And if you let love in, or you design love into your own life, gosh, you can be a source of it for all the people that you serve or all the people that you work with. And please don't think you have that power. You absolutely have that power. And for many of us, we just haven't ever really been taught how to design it into our lives. If we do, other people, you're you're sp- you're spreading the love. And that's what's possible when you design love in.
Yeah. Wow. Marcus Buckingham, this has been an absolute gift to get to spend time with you. You are making a profound difference in this world, in the lives of individuals, in organizations, and I just thank you. Thank you so much for showing up the way that you do in this world and caring so deeply.
Well, thank you for having me.